Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Toby D and JRC, or JRC and Toby D, however you want to call it. It is pound for pound, and yes, we are finally together. It's been a minute, and we just want to shout out to all of those, by the way, that helped our last video go up to almost 9,000 views. I've never had that done, even doing it by myself. And my man JR has helped me to accomplish that, as we are on this channel now together, officially doing what we do. And we got some new things going. Like I said before, when we solo, we normally all Falcons. But now that we are together, we are doing what we call our 4-down territory, talking about some news around the NFL of our liking. And we will cap it off with dropping F-bombs, Falcons bombs, that is, on you all, because we know y'all want to hear about them Falcons like we always be doing. So the first thing I want to do is get into some things, talk about around the NFC South.
There you go.
Because you brought up some things that could affect two teams' line on the offense and the defense. And I'll let you go ahead and hook that up, JR.
So for the first down of our 4-down territory, what we're referring to is the Michael Oher situation that happened this morning, where he tweeted out a picture. Didn't have a bunch of like information with it, but the picture was like the counter full of pills. And, you know, it was like symbolizing like this is what we have to deal with as players. Now, I don't know if he was trying to make a point towards like needing to lessen up on the marijuana usage, because I know that's big for players, saying that they can use that to, you know, help ease their, you know, pain and suffering, or whatnot, which could be true. I don't have any. I've never done any research on like the effects
and things.
Right. So if he's tweeting out stuff like that, that means, you know, he's still going through some stuff. You know, he's still trying to battle his way back. So that could be a big question mark on, you know, the Carolina Panthers offensive line, which didn't do a great job last season keeping Cam upright.
Cam got tore up
big time. You know, that was one of the bigger issues of their season. You know, they couldn't protect Cam, they couldn't keep him upright, and because of all that, his mechanics started going downhill, you know, real quick, and his performance wasn't the MVP performance of the year before.
Right, not to mention now, I believe, if I heard it right, he had already been hit about 50 times going into week 4 against the Falcons last season.
Exactly.
That's a lot. That starting from week 1.
Right. And as Falcons fans, whether we like the Panthers or not, we can attest to that if you don't have a good offensive line, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. Yeah. You know,
this is true.
You know, for example, you know, Matt Ryan, you know, the 2013 and 14. Yeah. Dude couldn't breathe, much less throw a pass. Dude says hike, and all of a sudden he's on the ground. I mean, so, you know, you can't play quarterback well from your back.
And it's just interesting how Ron Rivera, they tried to downplay it.
Of course.
But I didn't see that pick, but now with that coming out, there's no more downplaying.
No, you can't. That's real now. That's bringing that stuff to the forefront. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how does Michael Oher, you know, respond to this, as far as like, how does he progress through his injury issues? Right. And then also, you know, they signed Ryan Khalil. Right, I think, you know, the brother of the center. Yeah. And he was a turnstile up in Minnesota. Right. You know, he had a good rookie season, but that so far has been his only good season.
Right, you haven't really heard much about anything from him.
You know, that's going to be something to watch, you know, from a Falcons, you know, fan standpoint. Is, you know, if they can't protect Cam, that's a bonus for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but we're going to feast off of that. That is an issue. Right. Because we pretty much feasted off of it last season. Right, exactly. I mean, other than that first down he got on us, and when he taunted Deion Jones, which was a rookie at the time.
Yeah, he paid for that later on.
And he sure did. 2-point conversion.
He got knocked out.
And... I mean, and that just brings us right back to the other thing, dealing with the lines again with the Nick Fairley.
Right, Nick Fairley of the Saints. I mean, he has I haven't heard exactly what his heart condition is, but there's a heart condition that he has where at least 2 doctors have told him he doesn't need to play football anymore.
Right, that's serious.
He's seeking a third opinion.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you're seeking a third opinion, that means your first two wasn't what you wanted to hear.
Right, and if you look around this NFC South, and I was thinking about this the other day, look at what they've done. You got Chris Baker, who was signed with from the Washington Redskins over to Tampa, what shocked me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And him teaming up with Gerald McCoy, and then you got you sitting over there already in Carolina when you got K'Wan Short, who got a big payday.
Big payday.
And I may butcher his name, Starla Tolele.
That's pretty good. I think
that's about as close as I can get.
I won't even try to
and that's a power interior duel over there. And then what the Falcons did, now it still remains to be seen if Dontarie Poe could return to a 6-sack season like he had his rookie year.
Right.
But we'll see him teaming up with Grady Jarrett. But now Nick Fairley, when you looking at something that could have been potential, I hate to say this, but him and Sheldon Rankins, that could have been dangerous. And still could, depending on if his third opinion comes through.
And then also, it really depends on what he wants to do. You know, we're hearing that he's looking for a third opinion, but, I mean, in that situation, you could get a doctor to tell you what you want.
Well, pretty much.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I will say this, regardless if he's a Saint or not, I hope he does the right thing for himself.
Right.
You know, because, you know, football is great and all, but life is a little better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate if he can't play, because it seemed like finally, after being drafted high in 2011, and arguably was considered to be number one overall over Cam Newton.
Yep, he was very
coming out of college, to have your career when you're just really getting started. You know, after a good 6.5 sack season may come to an end if this third opinion doesn't come through the way that you want.
Exactly. I mean, he got, you know, drafted by the Lions to play side by side with Ndamukong Suh.
Right.
They kind of blew that thing up because they couldn't pay everybody, and he hadn't necessarily blossomed.
Exactly.
But then he goes and resurrects his career with the Rams and gets a payday from the Saints.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you hate to see, you know, that be derailed by, you know, a heart condition, a potential heart condition. But I do hope that he does what's best for him. Yeah. So let's move into into the second down. And the second down is where we're going to examine, something came out earlier about the potential of Derek Carr becoming the first quarterback to get $25 million a year.
Woo! Jesus.
That's some cheddar. That's some jack. You know,
Man.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to debate with you whether he's worth $25 million, but I will tell you that, as we all know, quarterbacks demand the highest amount of money.
And they're hard to find these days.
And so if you have one that is somewhat competent, you don't let him go.
He's good, man.
Right. And, you know, perfect example of that is Kirk Cousins.
Right.
2 years in a row, they franchise tagged this man.
Mm-hmm.
That's guaranteed money.
That's a lot of money.
That's something that the NFL doesn't do. It's fully guaranteed. They'll guarantee you a portion, but not fully guaranteed. But, you know, 2 years in a row, they're fully guaranteeing, you know, Kirk Cousins a ridiculous amount of money under the franchise tag. And Kirk Cousins is average or below average at best.
Top 15, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he's somewhere, you know, in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
You know, he's not gonna lose you a lot of games, but he's not gonna win you a ton of games. You know, he's not the piece. He's a piece. You know, so if you're using that as kind of your baseline, Derek Carr is definitely worth money.
Right.
But that's gonna make Derek Carr be paid more than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
More than Drew Brees.
Yeah.
More than Aaron Rodgers.
Triple, yeah.
And more than Matt Ryan.
Quadruple, yeah.
Right. So what a lot of people would consider to be like, you know, the top echelon quarterbacks. Now, for a lot of people, Ryan just kind of stepped into that. I felt like he's been there longer than most people felt like he's been there.
Right.
But, you know, you got Derek Carr getting paid way more than the top five guys in this league.
Yeah.
Now, who's to say if he doesn't break his leg last year, that it may have been the Falcons versus the Raiders.
Yeah, and it could have been. And what a storyline that would have been. After Tampa won against the Raiders.
Exactly.
So that could have been a storyline. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
Right. But so, I mean, with that being said, you got Derek Carr potentially getting $25 million. You got Aaron Rodgers has been chirping for a while for a new contract.
Yeah, but he says that he's not worried about it. He's going to continue on with business, but we know he's getting paid.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, he's going to get paid.
How old is he, by the way? He's got to be 33 or something. Just a little bit older than Matt,
He's a little bit older than Matt Ryan. Because if Matt Ryan turned, 32
or something
32 or 33.
Yeah.
So Rodgers got to be getting closer to that 35 range.
Right.
So you got to figure this will probably be Rodgers' last real big, I'm going to cash in this time around.
And considering the lack of quarterbacks out there of quality,
I mean,
he's getting paid.
Right. Green Bay's going. So, I mean, Derek Carr may get $25 million a year this year, but as soon as they decide to sign Aaron Rodgers again, he's going to make more money than Derek Carr. And then I would almost go on a limb and say, either if it's not this year, then next year when they extend Matt Ryan,
he's gonna get
more than 25.
Especially if they made the Super Bowl again, which I'm going on record right now. And I'm saying I believe they are gonna make it again. We're gonna talk about that during them F-bombs. You just watch and see.
So that leads us there, with the Derek Carr story. So moving into the third down, we got a topic that kind of irks me just a little bit. With I'm of two minds of this topic. I guess it's veteran skipping minicamp or the voluntary minicamp.
Okay.
Now my two minds says if it's voluntary, then we can't get mad at him for skipping it.
Right.
We always end up getting mad at him for skipping it. So if it's not voluntary, if voluntary is in air quotes, then we need to get rid of the word voluntary. And just go ahead and make it mandatory minicamp.
Right.
If you're going to get mad at these guys for skipping what is considered voluntary, then take the word voluntary out of it.
Right. I mean, as I heard once before, there's an unwritten rule saying that despite it being voluntary, coaches still expect all players to turn out.
Right. Now, and that's true. That is true. And players, the ones who are disgruntled, use that time as their way or their only way of protest, saying, I want a new contract.
Right.
So this brings us to the greatest, the best ever,
former LSU Tiger,
Odell Beckham Jr.
Woo! Or OBJ as they like to call him, right?
Mr. Boat Trip.
Mr. Boat Trip.
Mr. Boat Trip. Okay.
Like to take pictures in all kinds of weird ways. I won't even get into them, but people know what I'm talking about.
But hold on, no, we got to get into it for a minute because you're a grown man.
Oh Lord,
grown man.
Don't do it, JR. Don't do it.
You're going to no shirts.
You did it.
All you boys and no chicks in bikinis to balance it.
Oh my goodness, you did it.
I'm just saying, it ain't right.
See, I hope nobody really hears this because I'm gonna tell you why. Because then they'll bring up our guy who's a rookie this year, who was also in some of those pictures. The Duke Riley. Y'all didn't hear that. Y'all didn't hear that
now. Anyway, we'll move on from that. But okay, so voluntary minicamp is a time for veterans to safely protest that they want a new deal.
Right.
And then that's essentially what OBJ is doing by skipping. And I look, I guess in a way I can't blame him. When you sign a merchandise deal or like a sponsor deal with Nike,
the biggest I've heard,
that's the biggest ever in NFL.
Yeah.
Period. And that deal is paying you more than the team is paying you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's probably an issue.
Yeah.
But dude acts like he's Jerry Rice reincarnate. Or at least the media tries to act like he's Jerry Rice reincarnate.
There's only one difference.
He ain't Jerry Rice?
Jerry got bling bling on his fingers.
And OBJ's got a boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Jerry's probably got 4 boats, but
4 or 5.
I mean, So when you pull a stunt like, let's just go ahead and call it you got the boat excursion with all your boys.
Yeah.
You got
right before the playoffs.
Right before the playoffs, which is not great timing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't go party, and I'm sure players go party all the time. Mm-hmm. But in the day and age of social media and cameras and everything else, why are you taking pictures of yourself partying? And can you not party in New York? I'm pretty sure a lot of people party in New York.
Well, I mean, I know
they
gotta have shirts off, man.
Yeah, I was about to say, I guess you can't take your shirt off.
Too cold to have that. Well, it's warm in New York at times, though.
Well, at times, yeah. I mean, anyway, so we're getting on a tangent here, but so you got that. You got the I'm going to go attack a kicking net and propose to a kicking net
and almost get knocked out.
Get knocked out by a kicking net. Then you got the Josh Norman thing.
Oh yeah.
Which is a whole another bag of crazy.
Yeah, he running around with a 12 gauge, which is his mouthpiece.
Right. So you're going to do all that, and then to me, you're going to have the gall to then say, you need to go ahead and give me a new contract?
Right.
I mean, I understand you're in the third year of your rookie deal, which is when you can start negotiating a new contract.
Right.
But I think if I'm OBJ, and I have been a little crazy, I might want to keep a low profile before I start asking for more money.
Helping your team win a playoff game would be nice.
I mean, that to me would go a long way at a negotiation table.
I mean, Julio, the Jet does it. I mean, Jet Jones
on a broken foot.
Yeah, and breaking records.
Yeah,
with a broken foot.
Right.
But yet everyone likes to say that OBJ is better, though.
Oh well, yeah.
I mean, because he got more touchdowns. Although overall touchdowns, he's 5 behind Julio.
Right. So. And Julio, I don't know what it is, whether it's been the offensive coordinators we've had or I don't know if it was a Matt Ryan thing for a while, but Julio, for whatever reason, isn't as big of a red zone target, which is something that we could talk about in the F-bomb, which is Sarkisian making that statement.
Yeah, we can definitely get in there because I have my theory.
There you go.
On that.
All right, so we'll hold that till then.
Yeah.
So not only do you got OBJ holding out, from what I understand, you got Olivier Vernon of the Giants deciding he doesn't have to go to voluntary minicamp after the Giants backed up the Brinks truck and dumped it on his front.
Money.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just something that annoys me, and I guess that makes me grateful for the team and the culture that we have.
Man, what you talking about?
Because Julio Jones recovering from foot surgery is out there on the practice field doing his recovery stuff, and then when he's not doing his recovery stuff, he's coaching up the other receivers and being that. Being that role model.
Exactly.
Even as far as talking with Devontae about his contract situation.
Exactly, because he's been there in 2015.
Right. So, I guess that just makes me even appreciate our guys even more.
Yeah.
And our culture even more. So, okay, so now we're moving into the fourth down. And the fourth down was... what was it?
You know what? I thought I was going to forget.
How'd you let me forget, Toby?
I forgot too, man.
I remember what it was. It was the Jets. Are the Jets trying to tank before the season even starts?
You know what? That's why we forgot.
Because it's the Jets.
Jets forgot they were a team. And they just dumping everybody that they can get off.
Right. I mean, in one fell swoop, you're saving, $65 million?
You're basically telling your fan base that we're going to go ahead and throw.
Might as well pack it in for the season. Don't even go.
Get ready for the draft already before the season starts.
You're floating around trying to trade Decker. You drop the linebacker Davis, who's been
Brandon Marshall didn't want to come back.
Right, Brandon.
They were going to get rid of him anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So they traded Brandon Marshall.
No, Brandon Marshall left. He decided that he didn't even want to come back.
That's what it was.
I think the linebacker, David Harris, I think that's his name, David Harris. They released him. Now, he was a pretty good linebacker
he was
for quite a while.
He was a 30-year-old solid linebacker.
Yeah, especially on the Rex Ryan.
Right. I mean, I'm not familiar with who they drafted, but I don't believe they drafted a linebacker that I can think of.
They did.
Was it high in the draft?
Yeah, it was a guy that we wanted. And if anyone can remember who that guy is, because right now I'm drawing a blank on that.
Big time.
Comment it, please.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you can comment down below, that would be great.
Because he has not, the guy that they drafted so far has not shined yet.
Right, that was...
and I cannot remember his name.
From Ohio State, Darren Lee.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, you don't have to comment no more.
Never mind, you don't have to comment. We got it.
Yeah, Darren Lee, right. He hasn't really panned out so far. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's just something you don't see NFL teams doing.
Yeah.
You know, especially
already
post June 1.
Yeah.
You know, you see that happen, you know, when it gets closer to free agency because they're going to make a move and do something else. You know, and grab up another player or clear up cap space because they got to, you know, they want to bring in somebody or whatever. So it's just really odd timing.
What do you think happened? Now, this is a team that once wanted to get Dan Quinn.
Right.
But Woody Johnson couldn't wait on Dan like the Falcons decided they wanted to do.
Yeah, so they hired Todd Bowles. And
whom we were once considering.
Right. And I mean, Todd Bowles so far has done a decent job with what he's had, which he ain't had a quarterback.
But he came there with a top shelf defense.
True. That is true. I mean...
Something went wrong.
Something is. I don't know. Okay, so Todd Bowles he's got more of an attacking style defense, right? Like he sends a lot of I thought
5-6 man pressures,
right? Like more blitzes than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so with having more blitzes, you know, sending more blitzes than anybody else, you're really predicated on your cornerbacks at that point.
Right.
They got to hold up.
Right.
In Arizona, you have Patrick Peterson and you know the backfield of Cromartie, Patrick Peterson, you know, Tony Jefferson, and then I don't know if he was there.
You know more of them than I do.
I don't know if he was there when Tyrann Mathieu was drafted or not, but
I think he was.
I think he was his rookie season.
Yeah.
And so, but heck, man, they've dumped they cut Darrelle Revis.
Yeah.
Which I mean, he needed to be.
Well,
not only his off the field stuff that kind of popped up, but the fact that he did not look like
which is ironic that would pop up. But, you know, hey, we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, won't touch that one. But they either cut or let go of Buster Screen.
Right.
And then Calvin Pryor. They traded Calvin Pryor.
Yeah, they sent him over to the Browns. And the Browns, man, sneakingly, is building something over there.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to play out because we know the Browns' history.
Right. But I mean, I got faith in Hugh Jackson.
Yeah, Hugh Jackson might change that.
You know, he's a good coach.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, you saw what he did with Andy Dalton and, you know, A.J. Green and all them. He kind of made them what they were because you've seen what they've been under Gunther, which hasn't been nearly as good as what Hugh Jackson had. And you saw what Hugh Jackson did in the, years ago with the Raiders.
Right.
Before Al Davis was crazy and fired Hugh Jackson after an 8-8 season when you haven't done anything. Anyway, that's the Raiders of then. Maybe the Raiders of now are better.
They're better. They're better, man. I mean, under Jack Del Rio, they are better.
Right. So you got I'm just the Jets have me scratching my head because that's not something you normally see an NFL team do.
Right.
This late in the season, this late in the off season. You know, so close to, training camp starts. Yeah,
it's weird. So,
but that wraps up our 4 down. So now we'll move into the segment that you all been waiting for, and we'll timestamp this for the people who wanted to not have to worry about the other part of it. But
the F-bomb.
Yeah, we'll move into the F-bomb segment, and we'll start out with a few things that have come out this afternoon. I think we should lead off with the biggest news, so to speak, is the Vick and Roddy situation.
Yes, and it is only right to do it exactly like that. This is a continuation of what went down in this fiery Georgia Dome on the last game of the season when we was whipping up on them New Orlean Saints. Mm-hmm. That we honored both those guys riding in on the same vehicle in the Georgia Dome, Roddy White, 84, and Mike Vick, number 7.
Yep. So, how do you feel? Like I guess the big discussion point of this is not that they're having a ceremony to, honor them as, Falcons retiring, but they didn't do the thing that normal teams do, which is sign them to a 1-day contract.
Right.
I wonder why that is. I wonder if it has a lot to do with how Roddy kind of left, and then some of the way Roddy put the coaching staff on blast a little bit after he left.
Could be.
And then the lightning rod that is still to this day, Michael Vick.
Right.
In a lot of ways, Vick put Atlanta on the map as far as not being a joke, in the NFL world. But you had the season of him breaking his leg.
Yeah.
And then followed up with the dog fight and stuff.
Yeah, two rough ones.
Right. And that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah.
But then you had the other side of the coin where the people who became Falcons fans because of Vick, or finally felt like they had an identity with the team because of Vick.
Right.
Like Vick signaled a new era of the Falcons.
Yeah.
Like something that you could be excited about. You know. So you have those fans who still to this day wear number 7 to the Georgia Dome on Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
And there, when Ryan was having his little rough patch, was screaming from the rooftops that we needed to re-sign Michael Vick.
Right.
Even though Vick didn't really do much once he came back into the league.
And I'm glad you said something just a few minutes ago about Vick representing like the new era, a turnaround for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of always odd how that gets ripped from us? When we had Deion Sanders basically built that dome, and he lets you know that openly. He doesn't hide that.
No.
And we let him walk out. And you can see Atlanta coming together, all the different cultures, the rap community, and as Julio Jones is looking like he's becoming that guy.
Right.
And hopefully that doesn't happen to us again now, because Julio Jones truly to me is now looking like he's continuing off from where Deion Sanders and Vick left off.
Oh, yeah. And I think you have the biggest difference between then and now is the ownership.
Right.
Now I'll go on record as saying that, back in, before Vick and all that, I didn't really follow any sports or whatever. So I don't know exactly what the culture was, but in talking to other Falcons fans, be it my best friend who was on with me last week, and things like that, the Rankins weren't a very good ownership.
Right. No.
They didn't seem like they cared.
No.
About the team itself. It was more of a dollar sign in a ledger book.
Yeah.
Versus something that they were passionate about.
Which is cool if you like Arthur Blank and you know how to properly build that.
Well, see, but Arthur Blank, to me, in my opinion, he melted or merges both styles.
Exactly.
He has the business sense and the passion.
Exactly.
I mean, because I can't remember the color scheme, but before Blank got there, the Georgia Dome wasn't red and black.
Mm-hmm.
It was like green and pink, and from what I understand, they sold other teams' gear at the Georgia Dome.
Wow, see, I had never heard that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and this
got
was
me there.
Right. And so when Blank came in and bought the team, he started that culture change.
Right.
He started that shift of this is our house. This is our team. Paid, had the, however he got the money. Like I said, I wasn't paying attention then. But changed the color scheme of the Georgia Dome to be red and black.
Yeah.
And stopped selling anything that wasn't Falcons gear. Now, can you imagine going to the Georgia Dome on a Sunday when we're playing the Saints and being able to buy a Saints t-shirt?
I don't want to imagine that.
Right, but that's what was happening. That's what was happening.
I don't want to imagine that there.
And so with that being said, with the Roddy and the Vick thing, you now have an owner who cares.
Exactly.
I mean, when Vick broke his leg, Arthur pushed him out on the field in a wheelchair.
Yep,
Arthur did.
I sure did.
Not some staff person, not some... I mean, Arthur could have pointed at thousands of different people.
And that goes to show you the relationship that they had.
And so, to me, if somebody is that passionate and then Vick makes the mistake that he made.
Right.
Me as a person, I don't know if I could fully forgive somebody.
Yeah.
But I'm a petty person in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a I hold a grudge, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I think it's good on blank to see that that's something that the fans want.
Right.
Because a lot of fans still very much identify with, you know, Michael Vick and the Michael Vick experience. And, you know, if you listen to any of the sports talk stations around here, you know, there isn't too many times that goes by that Vick isn't brought up still.
Yeah.
So he's still an important part to this team. And with that being said, he does need to retire as a Falcon.
Yeah, he does, man. I mean, it really didn't bother me. I really hated the situation about the dogs. You know, but the way I look at it, man, everybody, they make mistakes, sometimes even bigger than that.
Yep.
And you just got to learn how to rebound from them. And you're going to have to deal with some persecution from people because of whatever you do. If somebody knows you, and you're normally not a person known for doing certain things, or you've been doing those things and they've been kept secret for so long, and finally they come out into the forefront, then you got to be ready for whatever comes.
Exactly.
And I think he's handled that very well.
He has done a very good job. He is very much a symbol of he did the crime, he did his time, and he came out a better person.
Yes, he did.
You know, and that is encouraging to see. I always use a metric of how you can tell if somebody's a good person or a bad person is not necessarily by their day-to-day life, but how they rebound from a mistake.
Right, exactly.
A bad person tends to blame other people. Mm-hmm. A good person tends to take the responsibility on themselves and change.
Yes.
And so I don't view Michael Vick in any other way than a good person.
Yeah.
You know, he made a bad mistake, but he paid his dues for that mistake.
Yes, he did.
And with that being said, I think he should retire as a Falcon. Now, if it's Arthur's prerogative not to have them sign a one-day contract, because he come out and said that he didn't feel like they needed to sign a one-day contract.
Right, just to be part of the Falcon family.
They're part of the Falcons family.
Yep.
And so, if that's the way Arthur Blank feels, I think if somebody tries to make a big deal that they didn't sign a one-day contract, have missed the point.
Yeah, they missed the point.
You know,
they missed the point. So, you know, at least in my opinion. And one day that will come. You know, one day that will come. Now, I do believe now, however, that White may get his jersey up in the rafters before Vick.
I think so.
Because of the position he is in. And how crazy is that? I know Vick probably never really expressed it, but Roddy White was not a fan favorite at first when he got here as a Falcon. Be honest now. He was a guy that he would drop just about everything he tried to catch, and all of a sudden he turns it around, man. And to see him from 2007 up to the time that he retired to do what he did, 3 different quarterbacks, you get your first 1,000-yard season. Now, Joe Horn helped him out in that regard.
Right, that was a guy I was trying to remember. I knew, because you got to remember, this is really before I started, you know, paying attention.
Right.
You know, so my memory of Roddy White is the post Matt Ryan.
Yeah, you caught him on the good day.
Right, I caught him on the good day. But I remember my buddy telling me about, you know, we signed this wide receiver who really helped, you know, Roddy White, and that was Joe Horn.
Yeah, and he came here based on Vick being here.
Right.
That was the drawing board right there, and unfortunately that didn't happen. But he didn't waste any moments that he had with us, and he was able to instill a lot of his, you know, teachings into Roddy White, who then passed it on to Julio Jones.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That was the correlation I was fixing to bring up, is that, you know, when Jones first got here, you know, you had Roddy White as the number 1 and Jones as the number 2.
Right.
And I wonder how that would have went had they not signed Joe Horn, because at probably the 2012, 2013 season, it kind of became a 1A, 1B.
1B, right.
And then it's flipped where, you know, Julio was 1 and Roddy was 2.
Right.
And as outspoken as Roddy has always been, if you follow him on social media, you know that he don't hold back.
No.
You never once heard him gripe or complain.
Never once. He recognized talent when it was there.
And he propped him up.
And I think what made that even more acceptable was because Julio did not have a diva mindset.
Right. And still doesn't.
It still doesn't.
And, so that's a case where that Falcon filter that got put in place after the Vick type thing happened actually helped us, became a boon. A lot of times, for a while everybody was griping because all we were doing was signing and drafting choir boys. Yeah. You didn't have that edge that people were wanting, that grit, so to speak.
Right.
But Julio has that grit, has that mindset, but isn't a diva, isn't a distraction.
None of that.
Which can't be said for other wide receivers who are amazing and great up in New York.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the next thing is that you and I have heard today was finally they've come up with a date where they are going to blow the dome up.
Yep, they're going to implode the dome. The date is set for November 20th.
Yeah. During the season.
Yeah, like the Monday before Thanksgiving. That's the most random day that
That's
it's like somebody, I can see it now. They got a calendar up on the dartboard. It's one of those full calendars that shows you all the months. They just close their eyes and threw it.
Threw it. November 20th, that's what it's going to be. Blow it up.
But I guess in a lot of ways that's a good sign for the state of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right.
Because it was supposed to have been imploded in the spring.
Yep, it was.
And so they put that on hold and stopped demolishing it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the November 20th is there. Now I'm thinking about it. A little behind the curtain, I work for a construction company.
Okay.
So if they probably can't just blow the dome.
Right. Okay.
There's probably a lot more of, taking the seats out, taking the concessions down, taking the field up.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of things that they have to do before they can, push in the Looney Tunes TNT stick.
And
so So that may be how they come up with that date. Now that I stop and think about it for a minute, but anyway, what I was saying before is that that shows a confidence in the construction process, of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
The roof is closing now.
Right. Well, I'll give some of you folks and my partner here a little insight. Okay, that like I said before, I work for a construction company. We did some work down at the Brave Stadium. We also did work at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Okay.
Obviously, we didn't get it, or I would have been a lot more ecstatic than I am. But come to find out, that's been a really hard job because that building is a building type that has never been done before.
Right.
And when they engineered that roof, they didn't engineer it right.
Okay.
So they actually pulled in extra steel companies down there to work on that structure.
Gotcha.
And did almost around the clock kind of, work on that. So, that was a that engineering design that has never, like I said, had never been done before. So when you're doing something that has never been done, you don't know the problems that are going to pop up.
Right. Yeah, you don't.
So it didn't get necessarily engineered right to begin with. They have since fixed those problems, hence the roof is closed. right, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and then we get that third preseason game in there, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to attend, but hey, if somebody's willing to give us a ticket for me and JR, you know what I mean?
Hey-o.
Just going to throw that out there,
Drop a little suggestion for you.
A little subliminal messaging here.
Tickets.
Yeah.
But, so I guess the next thing, on the proverbial list is we're in OTAs.
Yeah.
We finished up the rookie camp.
Yeah.
We're finishing up the voluntary OTA process.
Yeah, today finished that up.
Yeah, that finished up today. When does mandatory starts next week, right?
Next week on the 13th.
Okay. All right. So the mandatory starts next week. Some of the things that, you might want to keep an eye on when you're checking, your Twitterverses and all your other, outlets is, keep an eye on that right guard battle.
Yeah.
Because as it's gone through the normal OTAs, I think it's been Ben Garland.
Yeah, and I heard, I believe Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach, had some rave reviews about the intelligence of Ben Garland because he's played both sides of the line.
Right. So. And
he's mentioned how intense those conversations have been with him and Alex Mack and the other guys in there.
Right. So this could be, this could be Ben Garland's job to lose.
It could be. It could be.
So that's one thing to, to kind of keep an eye on, another thing that I saw that caught my attention, that really kind of had me scratching my head a little bit, as I saw a report that they've had Brian Hill returning kicks.
Yeah, Keith Armstrong has said that he's going to give him a shot there because he loves the hunger that he brings to the table. He kind of reminds him of one of the linebacker that we had here. My mind is drawing a blank. My mind is drawing a blank right now. And y'all can shoot me for this because Akeem Dent.
Okay, good.
Akeem Dent. All right. Take the bullets back. Take the bullets out.
Put the gun down. Back on the table. Okay.
Yeah, Akeem Dent, he reminds him of his hunger, especially on special teams. And all the rookies, because Dan has made it clear. You want to make this team, special teams.
Oh, yeah.
Is how you're going to do it.
Exactly.
And I think Keith Armstrong right now is smiling because this could be the best group that he has probably seen.
But I wonder with Brian Hill, from watching his tapes doing those draft breakdowns, Brian Hill is more of a power runner, not necessarily a speed runner.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, because wouldn't you want speed coming out?
Yeah.
Like that we had a Devin Fuller.
Yeah.
Who we drafted last year.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he had himself hurt, winded up on IR last year.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's back. Wouldn't you want to give him a shot?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because Steve Sarkisian spoke a little bit about that.
Okay.
And Brian Hill might serve a role in that fourth quarter as wearing the defense down and icing that clock out. Now, that sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sounds like Dan Quinn might have learned something from a game that shall not be mentioned.
Exactly.
It's not like the Super Bowl was the first time that popped up. I did a video earlier this week about a Super Bowl hangover.
Right.
And talking about the Chiefs or the Chiefs loss and the loss against the Chargers.
Right.
And, it was a tendency of Shanahan's to abandon the run late in the game.
Right.
Even if we were up.
Mm-hmm.
Like starting almost like somebody smelling blood. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like a shark smelling blood and just start attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, because sometimes that shark don't realize I got something in my hand you can't see.
Right. I got a stun gun or something that you ain't got.
And New England had it.
Right.
They stuck us with it.
A few times.
But,
But I'm glad to see our coaches are learning from that situation.
Well, the beautiful thing about Dan is he came in knowing that he has that freedom of being able to go through trial and error. Right. And most coaches don't have that ability to be able to do that. Now, he knows as a coach common sense. But he always preaches looking for doing it differently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think he wants to try it differently first and then come back to the coach sense if the differently doesn't work.
Right. Because, kind of like what we were talking about before with the design of the dome, you don't know what problems you're going to have.
Exactly.
Until you try something you hadn't tried.
Exactly.
So, and that, I think that the whole experience only serves to further grow, our team as a whole, really. So, so you got OTAs. I'm trying to think of some of the more interesting things that came out. We heard from Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Speaking on, almost throwing shade in the most read between the lines kind of way.
Exactly.
Saying how it was much easier it felt good to be able to talk
Right.
to your offensive
coordinator that listens
right.
to you and
right.
your ideas.
Right.
And quote unquote not set in his ways. Sounds like somebody.
Yeah. I mean, all those things that were coming out, man, it was so much more of what was not said than what was said. Yeah,
it was.
And I think the things that was implied make me feel real good about this, shift going forward. A much smoother transition. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because, I likened it too in the video I did the other day, which I'm going to go ahead on record. Yes, I forgot to mention Alex Mack. I'm sorry that I forgot to mention Alex Mack being a very key part in the reason why Matt Ryan had performed better. Because, the guy could get him the ball.
Right.
In a normal hiking position, not bowling it back to him.
Hey, embrace the suck. Own it.
Own it. Look,
you gotta own it.
It's Tell the Truth Friday. I missed it. I'm sorry. I was trying to get a point across, and I missed that particular thing.
That's
anyway,
funny.
But we got to get to the defense.
Okay.
Because that's what people ask for us to talk about.
And we've been, it's a lot, so much to talk about.
It is.
And I apologize to the guy who asked us about the defense, but we're going to talk about it. And that's why we're going to have timestamps. So when you look in the description, I'll have it labeled and everything where you can go and hit the timestamp to get straight to what it is you want. And let's talk about the defense. Let's talk about Dontarie Poe and the weight.
From what I understand, he's already come in under.
Yeah.
What they set for him.
And he's supposed to do, from what I hear on 92.9 The Game, put him up. See, Duke said the 13th is his first weigh-in.
Okay, so that'll be because who was it? Von McClure said when he passed him that he didn't look like a 346-pound man.
No. But he was 340 instead of 346 like many of us thought when he signed the contract with the Falcons.
Right, true. So he's supposed to be what, in like the 330s? 330. Okay. All right.
He's going to play somewhere between 330 and 335.
I think so. And that's a good, weight for somebody,
right?
With his, his
athleticism
size.
And size.
Right, and
yeah.
his skill set.
Yeah.
And how about the comments of already feeling like Dan Quinn is bringing that pass rush out in?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I think he has it because of his athleticism.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a very, attacking style. Yeah. Dan Quinn likes that,
violent hands.
Right.
And he already has that naturally. It's just now learning the technique side of it and when to use it. And I'm going to tell you, Brian Young is going to help both him and Grady Jarrett learn how to beat double blocks.
Now, okay, remind me, because I don't have the knowledge of it. Brian Young was a defensive tackle, correct?
Yes.
Now, I know that in his career at the defensive tackle position, he had 98 sacks.
Well, actually, reverse that, 89.
89 sacks.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I had it backwards. So it's 89 sacks.
Which is great for an interior lineman.
You're right.
Yeah.
And so you have somebody with that interior line experience like that coming in and working with, all these, D-tackle guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got two true D-tackle guys in Poe and Jarrett.
Yep.
Then you have the whole group of hybrid defensive tackle guys.
Derek Shelby.
Yeah, Shelby,
Upshaw.
Crawford, and Claiborne.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I think Claiborne needs to be on the edge.
Yeah.
But they've talked about in nickel kicking him in as well. So
he could do it, but I think, look, no disrespect to Brian Cox, I just don't think Brian could really get it out of him to do it that first year when he tried it. Yeah. But, we won't go, I won't go too much into that about Brian Cox, because I do have my theory on why he was actually let go other than the theory that he came up with.
Yeah.
But we'll let that go right now.
Weak theory.
Yeah.
Weak.
But I'm going to tell you something about Brian Young that I'm already liking. This is the second picture that I've seen him running and leading the guys out. And he just did a picture yesterday at the OTAs where he's in there with the guys. And I call them guys my 90s club.
Okay.
Because all of them have
number 9
in the 90s.
Right, okay.
On their jersey. And some of the guys you mentioned, Jack Crawford, Grady Jarrett, Derek Shelby. Now, of course, Courtney Upshaw was not in there But Dontario Poe, and I didn't know who the other guy was. But if you get a chance to look at that picture, then maybe you can figure it out. But I think those guys are going to be dangerous, man, especially against that run. I don't think teams are going to really be able to run on us, man.
I mean, you got cloggers in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you got speed on the outside.
Yes.
With, Tack and Vick. And then that's not even mentioning the linebackers, my God.
Right.
The seek and destroy linebackers that we have. Gonna start calling them homing missiles.
Yeah, man.
Because, and you see that comment that Devondre Campbell talking about
Dude Roddy. Is miles, he feels miles ahead of where
him and Jones were.
Yeah. And that's saying a lot.
If he's miles ahead of where they were.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
It's crazy.
Dude, we're going to have probably one of the most talented and definitely the youngest, core linebacking group going forward for a while.
If this defense is not top 10, I would be disappointed.
Yeah,
I'm just going to be honest with you. I feel like you have a defensive coordinator that is not shy from the camera.
Right.
And he doesn't run from speaking in the camera. Mm-hmm. And it looks like Brian Young is the same way.
Right.
And Brian Cox never was that guy.
No.
He was not going in front of the cameras if he did not have to.
Yeah, I'm about to say, unless you cornered him, like the only time you really heard from Brian Cox was at training camp.
Right.
And that was like one of the... I never really did get a great vibe off of Cox, and it may be more to do with the fact that he didn't ever get in front of the camera.
Right.
So you didn't really hear from Cox until he was answering for why his guys didn't do great.
But the type of defense that you want, you need your coordinators to be able to show that confidence.
Oh, yeah.
Especially getting in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what that does for your defense? Oh. That breeds confidence in them, too, as well.
Yep. It's a thing of it's a thing of in our zone defense that we run.
Right.
What makes the zone defense engine work is the pressure.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people get sideways when they hear coaches talking about, I just want to move the quarterback.
Right.
I want to get just pressure on him. Exactly. And don't necessarily we get caught up in sacks a lot.
Right.
But in a zone defense, if you can get the quarterback to be uncomfortable, that's when you can start getting turnovers.
Exactly.
That's when you make them throw off of rhythm.
Exactly.
Off their spot. Things like that. You need to be able to pressure from four guys from all sides.
Exactly. When you're running that zone defense, them four guys need to be able to get there.
Right. Yep. That's the backbone of a zone defense.
Yep. And you have, in my opinion, a great secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean you got Trufant coming back, who's by the way back to working out at OTAs.
Yeah, and looking good.
Which is great. So you got him signed to a deal. You got Oher signed to a deal. Mm-hmm. You got Jalen Collins still on his rookie deal. He played well when pressed into service.
Yeah.
I mean, he was picked on in the Super Bowl, but that was only because of lack of experience.
Right.
That wasn't necessarily lack of talent.
Yeah.
So you got Jalen Collins. Then you got Brian Poole.
Yep.
Who was the best slot corner last year.
And Ricardo Allen.
Which a lot of people like to try to bang on Ricardo Allen or down on Ricardo Allen. When in all reality, Ricardo Allen is a above average starter.
Well, he's not the flashy type of free safety like Earl Thomas is.
See, that's the thing. I think that's what people got caught up in.
Yeah.
Is, you had Dan Quinn come here from Seattle where you had an Earl Thomas.
Right.
But there's only one Earl Thomas in the NFL.
Exactly.
There's only one Eric Berry in the NFL.
Exactly. Not
every team has some, stud, all-star, all-world free safety rolling back there.
And Keon O'Neal, I believe his second year is going to be even better than he was the first year. 5 forced fumbles.
Dude is a head hunter.
Man, between him and Vick Beasley alone, 11 forced fumbles.
Yes, sir. And I think that is something that's going to just continue on.
Because you got more guys that can get the ball out of your hands.
Yep.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, I have, visions of grandeur just thinking about, all of our defense on the field at the same time and healthy.
Man, and can you imagine the different type of packages defensive line-wise you're going to be able to put out there, provided, let's pray, everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big key.
Yeah.
That's a big key for any team, anytime. But I believe that's why you have as many linemen on the defensive side that you have.
Right.
As many guys who are versatile and interchangeable.
Yes, and can play, just like you said, with the versatility that you want. And you're going to get matchups. But I'm curious to see if Brian Young will be able to get something out of Rashid Hickman.
See, this is a big year for Hickman.
Yes.
I mean, he's going into the last year of his rookie deal.
Mm-hmm.
He was a second-round pick, and that hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype of a second-round pick. Now, he's been decent at times, and he's flashed at times.
Yeah, he has.
But he hasn't had that consistency that you're looking for out of a second-round pick. My theory's always been that the first, second, and third round should be key contributors on your team.
Yes.
Past the third round, if you get something out of your fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounders more than just depth, then you've done good.
Yeah.
You've almost like won the lottery in a sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
But you got to hit it in that first, second, and third.
Yeah, you got to hit it.
Because different teams prioritize different people, differently. So you have a guy who has a potential first round talent may fall all the way to the third round.
Right.
Just depends on how the draft works out.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can get starters in the first, second, and third round for sure. So Hagman, this is a big year for him.
Big year.
Because he ain't got the ties to the coach, because coach didn't draft him.
Now, I want to tell you two things. If the Falcons, in my mind, can get better at stopping defensively, they're going to be hard to deal with on Sunday. Screen pass.
Yeah.
Because a lot of teams like to use that against them, especially New Orleans and Carolina Panthers, who do it a lot.
Right.
When they're aggressive up front. And you brought Kamal Ishmael, who seems to be real good at that. Mm-hmm. Dan Quinn showed the video on why he brought Kamal Ishmael back, and he showed him basically cutting down the yards on the running back from the Oakland Raiders.
Okay.
He was basically playing two roles, covering two different spots on the field in case it was a pass and a run, and how he was able to react fast enough to get back to stop that running back from getting 10, 15, and 20 yards.
Right.
If you can manage to do that and to shut that run down, you're going to have that quarterback very scared on Sunday, knowing he can't hide behind neither one of those two.
Right. If you can, it comes down to controlling the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And that's on both sides of the ball. So if you can run the ball, then you have a pretty good chance of success. Right. And if you can stop the run, you have a pretty good chance of being consistently successful. Mm-hmm. And I think Dan Quinn, it's kind of funny, how success can skew things. I felt like when we hired Dan Quinn that it was going to be a 3-year process before you saw what he really wanted to field on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Because of the inconsistency of Mike Smith not knowing what kind of defense he wanted to run, you had such a mixed bag, or like a mixed can of nuts. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So there was if you only like cashews and you got a mixed can of nuts, you got to dig through all the other nuts to get the cashews.
People love to do that with Skittles and Starbursts all the time.
Right, exactly. And so, that's what Dan Quinn had to do. He had a mixed bag, he had an assorted bag, and he had to sift through all that and get the guys in here that he wanted. Yeah, and he's done that. So I'm really interested to see what Dan Quinn's defense is going to look like in year 3.
Man, I feel good about it.
I do too.
I feel real good about it. And I can't imagine him putting Marquand Manuel out there to fail in that situation when he feels like now this defense at least has more pieces that can help Marquand be successful and possibly become a head coach one day in the NFL or at the college level.
And I feel like the switch from Richard Smith to Marquand Manuel was more of a synergy switch. Yes. Because Marquand was out there in Seattle with him. Right. And it may have been a thing where when he first brought Marquand here, he may not have felt like he was ready yet. Right. And he probably told Marquand, just be patient and do time. Come with me. Because remember now,
Dan Quinn wanted to bring Chris Richard, and Chris declined the offer to stay as the defensive coordinator in Seattle. I don't blame him.
No.
Because your last two coaches became head coaches.
Right.
So you feel like, hey, I get my chance.
If I stay here, I'll get my chance.
Yeah.
And so, he brought in, I think initially, Richard Smith because Richard Smith was a veteran, defensive coordinator.
Right.
And he was a first-time head coach.
Right.
So sometimes when you're a first-time head coach, you want to surround yourself with seasoned guys.
And the other thing, remember about Richard Smith that he brought him in. Remember when Richard got here, he said he looked at all the film and he saw that a lot of the players were playing with effort despite the way the season was going.
Right.
And I think that was another reason why he brought Richard Smith here was to help him identify the players to start building his defense
right.
up.
And I think, part of the way through last season, the defense wasn't performing the way he wanted it to perform. Right. So, after now you're a year in, the shine has worn off of the idea that, I'm the head coach.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, this is not performing like I thought it was going to perform.
Yes.
And, after that Chiefs game, Dan Quinn took over play calling duties. Mm-hmm. And our defense got better.
Now, word was, too, that Marquand helped with the nickel packages.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think through that maturation process of Dan Quinn as a head coach, then you also, during that time, had a maturation of Marquand Manuel even more.
Right. Yeah.
So that I felt like after the end of this season that he was ready to be moved into.
Yeah.
Which like you said was probably, potentially by design from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come with me, bide your time. I'll make you a defensive coordinator.
Yeah. Cause think about it now. When they fired Richard Smith, they wanted to offer him a consultant job.
Right.
See, that tells you right there really what they brought him in for.
Exactly. Yeah. And it also tells you that yes, he fired him or relieved him of his duties, but he still had a ton of respect for him.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like a, F you, get out of here.
Right.
Or, kick it to the curb, kind of like Brian Cox. But, anyway. But it was more of a, I want you around if you want to be around, but I don't want you around in this capacity anymore.
Right, exactly.
Which, if you're a defensive coordinator and somebody comes to you and says, I don't want you to be a defensive coordinator, you might get some kind of way, feel some kind of way about that.
Well, it's a pride thing, man.
Right, I don't blame Richard Smith for being like, no, I'm good,
But let's not kid ourselves. If you really study Richard Smith, you look at his days when he was the defensive coordinator of the Texans, their numbers were horrible.
Right.
Okay, and as someone said before, we really don't know how much Will Muschamp had an effect on that defense, even though he was the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins when Dan Quinn was there.
Right.
And Nick Saban was there, how much he had an impact on that defense behind the scenes, especially being assistant head coach with Nick Saban. So we really don't know.
Exactly. No, you're right.
I think we have gone greatly around the world in 80 days.
I think we might have run it around. Well, I think that's going to do it for us, folks. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us, listening to us ramble on about our team, about the league.
And keep sharing, liking, commenting, please. We love the comments and subscribing.
Exactly. That gives us not only the fuel, the pats on the back to keep going, but also lets us know that you're enjoying it.
Yes.
And yes, we're doing it because we're fans and we enjoy it, but we also want y'all to enjoy it.
Exactly.
So, the more y'all comment, the more y'all like, the more y'all subscribe, lets us know that we're on to something and that y'all are enjoying what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's definitely an important thing for us.
So, in closing, we're going to let it go because me and JR, we can talk about the Falcons all day because that's what we do.
That's right. Peace.
We out.